wing it a little bit this morning. I would love if I could have put together some type of videos of some of the projects that I've done, but next time around I'll definitely have some of that. Today I'm gonna kind of just discuss a little bit about who I am and how Island Plumbing got started and all that. So to start with, my name is Zack London. My age is 31 years old. Been plumbing since 2014, early 2014. Got into it when I moved out here to California originally. I'm from Hawaii, born and raised out there majority of my life. Moved out here when I was 21. Attended Hawaii Community College. Sorry, I got a little bit of notes right here. So yeah, attended Hawaii Community College. After I graduated from college, moved out here. Didn't start plumbing right away. I got into working at a grocery store. Was bagging groceries for a little while. And that was kind of cool for a minute, but then you kind of want to change it up. So started selling cars, learned about credit, learning about all of that. And then after selling cars, I just got tired of selling cars, to be honest. It not really my thing. I love dealing with people, but I just didn't like doing the whole car sales thing. My grandfather sold cars for a long time. He was successful at it. Figured I'd give it a shot, but it just wasn't my thing. So yeah, growing up on the Big Island, my dad had a rental property that he inherited, and it was a 1-bedroom house. And with any rental property, every time a renter moves out, there's always something you gotta fix, whether it be the replacing carpet, some type of windows, roofing, plumbing, anything like that. So I have 3 brothers, and my dad was a single father, and he brought us up kind of helping maintain that home. And so as soon as we got that property, I learned that maintaining a home is a lot of work. And me and my brothers learned that because every time a renter moved out, there's always something we had to do. So there's that. So moving on. Okay, yeah. So after I moved out here and I finished my whole adventure with selling cars, I got into plumbing. My partner is the one who kind of got me into it full time. So he was living up in Northern California. We would talk on the phone, weekly. He's like, hey, why don't you come up here and give plumbing a shot? Figured, why not? So I moved up to Northern California for a year, worked at a local plumbing company, gained some experience. That company was really small. They didn't have a lot of work going on. So what I ended up doing was I got in contact with a local company down here that had an apprenticeship program. So I joined that company. I was there for 4 years, attended a trade school at the same time. The trade school is PHCC, plumbing, heating, cooling, contracting. So attended that. It was cool. You got the hands-on experience during the day. At night when you get off work, you would go and study the UPC code book and just sit in a class full of other fellow plumbers and share your day and your experiences. So that was really cool. I liked that. So one thing that PHCC did teach me though is plumbing is systematic, and it's like a lot of things in life. Things are systematic. Plumbing really just consists of 3 things. You got your water system, you got your gas system, and you got your drain, waste, and vent system, right? So 2 types of plumbing that our company specializes in. You got your service and repair side, and then you got your rough-in plumbing. So with service and repair, which is where majority of my background of plumbing came from, is to me it's you're working on a pre-existing system that has failed, right? So you're walking into a home, pre-existing system has failed in some way. So as a service and repair plumber, you need to solve issues through a process of elimination. And to me, that's actually like the really fun part, trying to figure out what's causing this, what do I need to do to resolve this? And personally, just in life in general, I start with the simplest, easiest solutions with anything. So that's just kind of my approach. But the one major factor with service and repair plumbing is accessibility. Plumbing's out of sight, it's out of mind. It's under the ground, it's in the wall. So when there's an issue, how are you going to address that issue? And do you have accessibility to, resolving it? Accessibility is one of the major factors in pricing as well when you're having to do some type of service. If I got to dig 6 feet in the middle of your garage to repair a broken piece of pipe that's causing your whole house to back up, it's going to be a lot more expensive than having to crawl underneath the home and just getting access to it and being able to cut out a section. So yeah, there's that part of service and repair plumbing. So that's like one of the major factors that I deal with on a daily basis almost. Then, you got your rough-in plumbing. With rough-in plumbing, it's really comes in 3 stages. You got your first stage, which is the underground rough-in phase. And then with the second stage, you got your above-ground rough-in stage. Then with the third stage, it's your finishing stage, where it all comes together. So I love that part of the plumbing, because after all that hard work, you get to see how everything comes together, and customers are happy, you're happy, you get a real good sense of gratification. So that's what I love about plumbing. Another thing that I love about plumbing is that it's a skill you keep and use for life. It's super practical. And with evolving technology, it makes it an exciting trade to work in. Plumbing is a sociable job as well. You get to interact with lots of people on a daily basis. And if you're good at what you do, you'll always have work. So, and I would say in what we all do here, establishing relationships is really important. So when you're meeting a homeowner, establishing that relationship is really important. But I also want to establish a relationship with your home. I want to get to know your entire system. And when I'm working on your home, I'm not just there to address the immediate issue. I'm thinking about longevity. I'm looking at your system and I'm thinking, okay, what can I do as your plumber to have your plumbing system run efficiently? What can I do to expand the lifespan of your plumbing, really? That's like my whole goal when I go into your home. When plumbing does fail, there is a reason why it happens. There's always a source, so that's you gotta keep that in mind. Nothing just happens just because it happens. A lot of times people are wondering, well, why is this pipe leaking? Well, there's so many factors in that. What's your water quality like? What's your pressure like? How old is this pipe? So there's a lot of different factors in what cause things. And so knowing how to identify that and to provide options to resolve that and to expand the lifespan of your plumbing, that's all important things to know. So again, us as plumbing contractors, we love people who love their home. People are willing to invest in their home, people who are proactive. A lot of times when people are having plumbing issues, that's when I get a phone call. I never get a phone call when everything's good. They're not calling me like, hey, my plumbing's working great, I want you to come by and look at my plumbing, No, they're only calling me after there's some kind of catastrophic event or, some kind of issue going on. So that's kind of, to me, it's funny because I hear it every day. Well, it worked good for 20 years. Well, everything works until it doesn't, and you don't know what's going on underground, and you don't have x-ray vision, and it's out of sight, out of mind. That's just one of those things with plumbing. So I really get enjoyment, like when I go into someone's home, being able to educate them on their plumbing, because a lot of times none of us are born knowing this stuff. Nobody knows. We just know, like, hey, hit the handle, it flushes, turn the handle, the water turns on, and like when it stops doing that, then you're like, okay, what's going on, And so what do? You call a plumber, right? But yeah, so I like people who are proactive. I like to provide home inspections. I think it's very important to come to someone's home and be able to give them a total understanding of their system. Last thing they want to do is be caught off guard and something happen where they could have prevented it. So, we're checking shutoff valves, we're checking water pressure, we're doing sewer inspections, and just be really thorough because our home is our number one investment, So, wouldn't you want to protect that? And that's kind of like what it is with our company. I can't really speak too much about my partner. I mean, if you want to hear a little backstory about me and him, met him in Hawaii. We grew up in high school together, went to college together, surfing buddies. I grew up surfing my entire life. Been competing in surfing since I was like 4 years old. Surfed till I was competing till I was 21. And he didn't really compete as much, but this was just somebody that was always around in the community every day. And me and him, he grew up in Hawaii when he was 5, moved to Brazil, lived in Brazil for 10 years. His mom's Brazilian. Came back when he was 15. We attended the same high school, and that's just kind of where our friendship started, because I was surfing, he was surfing, and we're in the lineup together. And you can't, I mean, when you're a surfer and you're sharing that experience with someone else, it's just that connection there, right? Where you're just like, you're buddies, you guys have the same interest. So yeah, that's just kind of about who we are and how we got to know each other. And Glenn was up in Northern California, had his plumbing company for several years before we started this branch down here. And it's just this exciting adventure that I'm on right now. I mean, it's difficult, but I'm enjoying every step of the process. And just to see something starting from the ground and building that, I mean, I love it. It's just probably one of the best accomplishments I've made in my life. So yeah, that's who we are as Island Plumbing, and I'm open to any questions or comments or anything else. Yeah.
How long do you think until you can identify a pinhole leak in the slab?
Okay,
How long did that go on for, do you think?
I just did a pinhole leak or a slab leak yesterday. So what you do is you approach the system with an electronic leak detection. It's kind of like, how the doctor listens to your heart. What I'm going around doing is I have something that's a similar device, and what I'm trying to determine is it on this hot line or is it on cold line? Hotline is pretty easy to identify, especially in this case yesterday, because the floor was just, I was like, dang, this person has heated floors. You walk into the house and it's just like hot, and it's only in a certain area. And so what I do is you leave the water on, and you're listening around the home, and you're finding your 2 loudest contact points, because what you're trying to identify is which branch is leaking. So there's going to be a couple manifolds, one that's providing water, so there's going to be a source and what it's going to. So you're listening, you find those loud points, you open up the drywall at that point, locate the manifold, shut off the water, cut into the pipe, and then you examine the pipe. A lot of times it'll be a tall tale sign as soon as you cut into the pipe and you look into it. If that water just starts draining, it's telling me that pipe's compromised, some kind of hole in it. Not all the times will it do that, but that has happened to me in most cases. So that's what you do to identify a pinhole leak. You just kind of do electronic leak detection, especially when it's in the slab, and then you provide options for a reroute at that point. So that's how you kind of approach that issue.
On the preventative side, because you're talking about, and so many people call you when there's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think, what are some, I don't know, some simple or kind of go-to things to mention to people to try to get them into that more forward-looking preventative category rather than just calling you when something's issued? Because I know you mentioned kind of the home inspections.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a few different options. A lot of times, I bet, a lot of people don't know you have to flush your water heater. Yeah, I mean, I'd say 90% of people I talk to have no idea that you should flush your water heater. You should flush your tankless water heater. You should exercise your valves. There's that's like the most basic thing that I can think of off the bat. And then there's drain maintenance too. Kitchen drains I come across a lot of times where they just got so much buildup in it, and that's probably 90% of the stoppages I go to is kitchen stoppages. It's one of the most used drains in the home, and you got a lot of family coming into the home. You don't know who's putting what down the drain. And then over the years, it just accumulates with a bunch of buildup and this and that. So it's important to do cabling maintenance, but more so I'd probably recommend like a hydrojetting maintenance. That's going to give you a lot more longevity of it. So.
And And I would assume if you go in for like a home inspection to inspect everything,
Mhm.
even if there's not a big issue, that when an issue does arise and you come back, it's
Mhm.
probably a lot easier for you to identify the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, the thing too, when you have a plumber coming into your home and he's familiarized with your home and he knows your system, it's going to be a lot easier for him to be able to resolve that issue as opposed to bringing a fresh set of eyes who's not familiar, and they have to go through that whole process of elimination, which you already went through. And so, yeah, I mean, if that answers your question.
What's it called in Northern California? Is it island plumbing also? Same
It's
name?
Big Island Plumbing.
Big Island.
Yeah, Big
Oh,
Island Plumbing.
Little
Yeah.
Hawaii guy.
Yeah. So that's just coming from Hawaii. You know, that's kind of the name that we stuck with. So yeah.
We're in Northern California.
So in Marin County, like San Geronimo, what's like Fairfax
All right.
area. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Mhm.
You said you were at trade school and you really enjoyed that school,
Mhm.
learning all about different techniques
Mhm.
in plumbing. I've noticed in trade schools, a lot of them are really good at teaching you that trade.
Mhm.
But if you're going on to start your own business, they don't give you a lot of information on running a business.
Oh.
And I'm wondering how you learned that. Was it from car sales? Or?
Well, yeah, that's partially some of the background there, and then I mean, I really got to hand it over to Glenn too, because Glenn already had his pre-existing company up in Northern California as well, and so then when we were discussing about doing the partnership together, he helped educate me on that as well, because when he was doing it himself, he said it was a lot of work being like he was a one-man show, and he did a lot of rough-in plumbing, and you know he'd be out in the field all day. Then he gets home, and then it's like, okay, now I gotta do all this paperwork. And he's like, it's a lot to juggle, you know? And we figured out working together as a partner, you know, being able to divvy up that labor and all that paperwork, you know, you're a much more effective team, especially when you got people you can count on, people are dependable. And so that's kind of where my experience started coming from, was from him mostly, because he had that hands-on experience. And then I also have a family member who has their own business as well. So then I got in my aunt's ear and started talking to her and asking her questions and stuff like that. So, yeah.
All right. Good deal.
Thank you. Was there?
Asking for a friend,
Uh-huh.
how often should you flush the water heater, the tank?
Oh, yearly. Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you don't
Well,
have a
then,
water
yeah.
softening system. Yeah.
Since it was installed. Holy
Yeah, you want to do it once a year. If you don't have a, especially if
I
you
mean,
don't have
I
a
do
softening
mine,
system.
but, you know.
Yeah.
What do I expect if I haven't done it in 10 years?
Oh, you're gonna have some crazy buildup in that water heater. Does it sound like it's just popping and
Little
going
bit,
crazy?
yeah.
Yeah. So we got a lot of minerals and chemicals in our water, right? And so that'll all consolidate into like rocks.
Oh.
And so I've seen in the past where somebody had a 40-gallon water heater and it was really old, and they were complaining about running out of hot water like constantly. And I had a coworker of mine, we actually cut this water heater in half because we changed it out and we gave him a new one, and we were just curious how this water heater looked. And when we cut that thing, probably half of it had sediment and just like buildup in it. So they literally probably had maybe 20 gallons of water, and then the flame had to cook through all that rock just to heat up that bit of water. And I was like, yeah, that's what you call inefficient, you know? So yeah, that's things that will occur if you don't flush
You
your
just
water
take
heater.
a garden hose and screw it on
Well,
and
yeah,
then
you
turn it
do
on
that.
outside?
You do that every year before it. Yeah, you hook
What
up
if the
a
valve
hose.
breaks?
The valve breaks, and
Call the plumber.
you call me. there's a few ways I go about it. I don't really like those gate valves. I'll switch those out. I'll pull a full port ball valve,
Yeah,
and then it's just a 90-degree ball valve. You just turn it, and that's a lot more effective as opposed to the gate one. That gate one, you'll get sediment caught in that, and then it'll take you forever to drain that thing. So
Trouble.
there's little tricks into it.
Might have a referral for you.
A friend.
I got
Yeah.
you. And was there any other questions or?
Thank you.
Yeah?
Good job.
Thank you, guys.